Hello, everybody. Welcome to VFX Summit. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm Gaurav Mathur, Solutions Architect at Epic Games, and it is my unreal pleasure to be here with you today. This session is about Unreal Engine 5's journey so far and what is to come. Personally, for me, it has been an amazing ride to see all the art and technology combined in such incredible ways. As a disclaimer, we generally want to underpromise and overdeliver. And in this talk, I will be showing some of the things that we have internally in development. It comes with a caveat. Rendering for games and films are like two sides of the same coin. Games prioritize speed, delivering 60, 90, or higher frames per second. Movies, on the other hand, focused on hyper-realistic images, often spending hours or days to create a single frame. A stark contrast in priorities. Games rely on rendering tech called rasterization, whereas movies have relied on path tracers. The way rasterizer works is by projecting 3D scenes onto the pixels of the view plane, as you can see on your screen left. Whereas path tracing is shooting millions and millions of rays into the scene, bouncing around multiple times, recording the final sample at any given pixel. This takes long, but looks more real. One of the obvious differences can be seen in lifelike reflections, soft shadows. To perform real-time ray tracing has been the holy grail of computer graphics since 1970. Let's rewind a bit and to the year 2018. Epic Games, in collaboration with NVIDIA and ILM XLab, gave the first public demonstration of real-time ray tracing in Unreal Engine 4. It had textured area lights, shadows, ambient occlusion, reflection, depth of field, denoising, all running at interactive frame rates. Let's take a look.
What's the story with all the elevators lately? I heard Kylo Ren destroyed the one over in D sector.
If you ask me, who's ever in charge of this place should be transferred to Hoth. What? What? You think she heard us?
Yeah, I think she heard us.
At least we blend in for once.
This was also a period where the key pillars of UE5 were being decided. It had to be industry-leading rendering tech, next-generation animation tools, tools for building larger worlds, high-end simulation system, and fifth, the next-generation audio technology. UE5 journey to the public started with the release of Lumen in the land of Nanite. This showed what was possible on PS5 with this new rendering R&D. It featured Nanite, Lumen, and high-quality anti-aliasing upsampling methods. Your HD res gets upscaled to 4K. In May 2021, UE5 became available as early access and had features for world building, animation tools such as control rig, retargeting, deformer graph, and procedural audio design tools called MetaSound. At the end of 2021, with the run-up to the 5.0 release, we created a new demo called Matrix Awakens, which showed off many big features, such as feasibility to create large-scale photorealistic cities using Houdini tooling, making these cities alive with our efficient mass systems to run crowd and vehicle sims, alongside chaos physics for dynamic effects.
Hi, I'm Thomas Anderson. Like many of you, I work with computers. But computers are also mirrors, reflecting back who and what we are and the choices we make, the worlds we build. You still got it.
Like riding a bike, they say.
Fast forward to this week, 5.4 just got released. Questions for the audience. How many of you have gone through the release notes of 5.4? Or 5.5 rather? One person. Well, let's take a look at some of the key features that are now available in 5.5. We'll start with rendering. This one is my favorite.
America's hero, dancing around in red, white, and blue underwear. That shield that you hide behind does not belong to you. You are unworthy of it.
Well, let's pause things here and inspect the close-up a bit. This is taken from Marvel 1943, Rise of the Hydra, running in real time. Thanks to the work done on the renderer parallelization, speed gains are about 2x on the matrix Zemosity sample alone. What that means, you can now push more data through the rendering pipeline. See, all the subtle details that make the difference are now possible. On UE5, one of the heavily requested feature has been displacement, ever since it was taken off in the beginning. In 5.4, we brought them back. All the details that you're seeing on the ground are coming from nanite dynamic displacements. It is turned off right now. Adding tons and tons of details with displacement map is more convenient and efficient instead of building the actual geometry at that resolution. This is the nanite geometry view. And no one understands this better than environment artists. I'm sure some of you in the audience will appreciate that. Using hand-painted or procedural textures, you can add details. Here you can see the tire marks on the ground, the snow accumulation, and much more. This is the nanite view, thanks to dynamic displacement. Let's move to a different area. For example, snow accumulation on the props, it just becomes a matter of sliding, mixing these two different textures and get it going. There's also support for participating media via VDB. VDBs are your sparse volumetric data sets that can be exported from Houdini. See how the smoke is casting shelf shadows. There are shadows on the ground. There is interactive lighting from the fire, making the entire scene look more natural. With 5.5, Nanite's big focus this year is on foliage. We are working on making trees and plants look great at a distance with complex details. There is also experimental support for Nanite skeletal meshes. What that means, your animated geometries, animated caches will be driven through Nanite. In the future, we expect to work on foliage, better performance, and the seamless integration between with the lighting and shadows. In 5.5, Lumen is getting even better. We have a new feature called Mega Lights to allow hundreds and hundreds of dynamic lights in-game on console. We are also improving Lumen's performance, hitting 60 Hz already with 5.5, and smoother gameplay on current-gen consoles. In the future, we will be exploring ways to use Lumen on a wider range of devices, from high-end PCs to mobile phones. With 5.5, Path Tracer is now production-ready and feature complete for enterprise and linear content. There are still some experimental aspects with the denoiser and volumetric clouds. On Substrate, we are working on getting this to beta. We would like to ship our internal games on it first before calling it production ready. There is a bunch of work to do in future, including the self-shadowing support, third-person shadow support, and reflections. On the engine architecture, our main focus is around better performance. This is done using the new work graphs and enhanced barriers, which is a new feature of DirectX 12. Feature-wise, we are working on refactoring of the GPU profiler. There is a support for bindless resource, reducing the shader compilation time. Another big effort is on the new material update and faster shader compilation through better deduplication. There is further work to be done on the rendering parallelization and further reducing the shader permutations. And there's a major update on the movie render queue that we saw in 5.4. So all of these settings that you saw became nodes. And this is what we call movie render graph, which is essentially node-based, artist-friendly interface to manage your render settings. Let's take a look at the render layer example. So you can create these render layers and have these rule-based definitions of actors within the scene that are interest or adjustment. For example, here is the beauty pass, where you have the background, foreground, and the effects element. Using the modifiers, you turn off the foreground and effects elements and keep only the background. So this is your environment layer. This is the foreground character. And using the modifiers, you can turn off everything else except FX layer, and this becomes your FX pass. And this is held out by the other geometries. So this is the schematic of it, and this setting will look something like this in our movie graph config. Well, let's talk about animation. Providing next generation animation tools is another key pillar for UE5, empowering non-expert content creators to make our technology easy to use and accessible. Let's see some of our best animation features in action. To start with, our new gizmos, while there's a new look and style, they also come with lots and lots of other improvements. Direct manipulation has been improved. For rotation, you can spin your cursor around the arc of the gizmo. We have also improved our arc ball. It's more fluid and intuitive while manipulating. Proper indirect manipulation has also been added. You can now middle mouse click and indirectly manipulate without having to click on the gizmos in the viewport. Previously, we only had world and local options. With the new gizmos, you can now manipulate transforms in the parent space as well. This was one of the highly requested features from the animators. We have also reworked our anim details view. Channel box, you can now expand the transforms vertically and manage your keyframes with our new key status indicator. Our previous versions only shows transforms on selected controls. New versions show all the transforms you are animating in one place, including the camera, the lights, your props, as well as your character controls. Any transforms that you animate in sequencer will show up in the anim details view. We have also added a selection system to the window, which is synchronized to the curve editor, giving you more flexibility on how you may organize your window layout. Let's talk about our tween tools. A few versions back, we added support for non-character controls as well as support for individually selected keys in the curve editor. Previously, we only had 3 sliders: blend neighbor, push and pull, and tween. In our previous releases, we have added 3 more sliders: blend relative, which moves keys relative to the previous or next; blend ease, blends your selected keys to the nice ease and ease out shape; and the last one is smooth and rough. And this is really good for smoothing any noisy data which you might want to correct. Our constraint system has also received several important updates. Let's talk about level sequence constraints, which can be fully animated and saved in the level sequence itself, and it'll show up as blue when active. Level constraints which you will not be animating, but you can access it from switching to the animation mode. This will show up as green when active. Our evaluation engine has been greatly enhanced, giving you better results with more complex and nested setups, resulting in much cleaner and better experiences while working. In this example, the character is constrained to the table, the hands are constrained to the ball, and the ball is constrained to the chest of the character. Our new layered control rig has many usage, but I want to highlight just a couple. Here we are blending between few animation clips. Prior to 5.4, if you wanted to edit this data, you would have to bake this data onto a control rig and then edit. Layered control rig lets you pose and animate directly on top of incoming animation sequence. Once you add a layered control rig, you can see it's already solving the incoming motion to the control rig. To make it clear, Here we are adding a full body pose at the start. We're going to speed this part a bit. Right, okay, you can see the result of the pose on top of the clip already. Let's add another keyframe of that pose here, and the last key with the zeroed out transform on the control so that it starts running again. Yeah, Control I is the set zero keyframe to reset the keys essentially. You can quickly mute and unmute this control layer to check the difference. These are just the animation clips, or just look at the motion just we've added on top of the clip. Another very cool thing that we can do here is to use constraints to override the incoming motion. Here we are setting up a look at constraint so that the head can look at the cube. Now the cube is driving the head orientation. These control rigs lets you animate in a very non-destructive and powerful way. There is another enhancement to the sequencer for material slot parameters so that you can animate and access tracks from the sequencer itself. This also lets you switch the materials in animation. This can be something very useful for animators. Very quickly, I also want to cover auto retargeting features that lets you retarget your animation data to any existing skeletons and export new clips with just few clips. Select all of the clips. Select the folder where you want to export and give a prefix. And with one click, you have everything retargeted. Well, talk about control rig. You can now select viewport controls with marquee selection. We now fully support new animation gizmos, letting you pose your characters very intuitively. You can also manipulate graph nodes directly in the viewport. We call this direct manipulation. You can use hotkeys to quickly toggle between your translation, rotation, and scale transforms. We also have something called modular rigging, which lets you rig a character based on the predefined modules. All you have to do is drag and drop any modules to available sockets. For example, we are selecting all the finger sockets to create multiple controls in real time, like so. Drag and drop. There you go. And once rigged, you can swap the skeletons to any other rig, and the rig will obey. Like a big bot, you don't have to re-rig this. So, we have also been working hard to improve our deformer workflows. With 5.4, we shipped a set of pre-built deformer function graphs that you can now add and directly to your deformer graph. This set provides a standard linear blend, skinning, dual quaternion, blend, twist, squash and stretch, flare, and lattice. The overall user experience of the graph workflow has been improved a lot. Deformer graphs can then can be connected to control rigs and driven by animated parameters on the fly. You can package your workflows in reusable functions and expose the parameters for animators. Here's an example of lattice deformer, which is a control rig that animates from the sequencer. You can attach with constraints, connect to control rig to have greater control over local deformation, such as a squash and a stretch on this dragon here. A skeletal editor already moved to beta in 5.4. You can easily pose your asset by painting weights. You can view the direct preview of deformation instantaneously, giving you more control on how the model deforms. Because we are in Unreal Engine, there is no guessing on what happens. Results are live. And you can paint these deformation while the animation is being played. This is something nearly impossible in non-linear application. I mean, essentially of non-real-time workflows. And there are a bunch of examples you can download and learn from. This Dino rig is pretty sweet. This is a Canon. Essentially rig and animate anything that you can imagine. All right, animating with 5.5. With 5.5, model rigging framework is moving to beta, finally. We are working on ML Deformer, where debugging in QA has taken place. We would really like to see more people starting to use it. It's very fast, and we have shipped content in Fortnite a year ago on a previous gen consoles. So starting with 5.5, we aim to broaden the overall appeal and adoption of sequencer and expect lots of quality of life update and fixes. With dynamic sequencer initiative, we are going to support dynamic user-defined operations such as time warps and conditional tracks. Both of these efforts lead to our future work towards branching cinematic dialogue system. And not to forget, we are adding physics as part of the process, giving animators free overlaps and secondary actions. To quickly touch on motion matching, we have been spending a lot of time on the example content data set that was released with 5.4 and debugging tools to make the system more robust. In the future, we are looking to add support for multi-character interactions and improving the tooling around trajectories. With 5.5, the gameplay camera system can author camera state behaviors and transitions alongside with debugging options. Choosers are now prediction ready. We are also extending the rewind debugger and mutable characters now entering into beta. Broadly, for 5.5, we have a new system called Anim Next, which will improve animation performance and has a unified animation pipeline. We are also on a multi-year long-term initiative to make the Anim graph logic much faster on our rig VM. We will also unify control rig and the animation composition into new framework. So lots and lots of good stuff for animation to come in the next versions. Now, let's talk about motion design, which was released with 5.4, and see some of the best features in action. We have a dedicated layout for motion design now. There is a separate 2D and the 3D viewports. You still have the access to the full 3D scene, and the camera cuts out of the level editor itself. The 2D canvas has rulers and guides. You can zoom in and pan. Most designers coming from the other applications or from design backgrounds would want to pixel align to the screen and hit those design targets. This will allow you to do that. There is a mixture of lit and unlit materials. We have a new system for cloners, lots of options to choose from, such as grids, spheres, lines, circle, meshes. And this kind of work is a staple for MoGraph work. You have the ability to nest whatever groups are inside into this cloner actor. You can sort the pattern one after the other, or you can randomize them. Effectors also allow you to change position, rotation, and scale within the area of influence, which works on a fall-off. In this example, we are building a Lego ocean. One cloner is making waves, and the other is creating those shorter peaks. Here's an example of building a city with 10 buildings. Working with cloners allow you to do a little bit of a world building on the fly. It's fun to experiment. And gives you control over these, you can use these procedural. You can also add these forces on the systems. For example, a kernel noise as a force giving these nice undulation on the particles, which is essentially a Niagara system underneath. Here we have some procedural geometry tools. We have taken a lot of our geometry scripting framework and turned them into parametric models. There are all sorts of shapes and sizes that you can bring in. We have covered all the common shapes that you would want to do it. We are focused on the viewport experience. The entire modifier system allows you to create, extrude your outlines, in your bevels, etc. And you can combine these different shapes in interesting ways. We have our new material creation format, which should be more familiar if you are coming from Photoshop-like toolsets. Here we have a 2D element character that we brought in, and we have the school background that's showing up behind. We can change the tiling options and change the opacity, etc. Let's take this glow and throw this back. And there are lots of blend modes that you can choose from, so pretty much like Photoshop. And you can control various aspects of these individual layers. For example, using custom masking and animate these UV parameters, you can get the animation going. Which looks pretty cool. This is also building an Unreal material, which can be accessed from the screen right here. And lastly, there is also support for text and font features. We also have a bunch of animation presets for text animations, like wiggle and bouncing animations. There's also a growing library of preset materials, which is different from your Quixel library, allowing you to start very quickly. Any motion designers out there, do give this a try. It's pretty fun to play with. Well, with 5.5, you also have now effectors, your physics, the different collections, and your effectors such as the spring effects, material design, and PBR materials are now supported, groups and adjustment layers. In our material designer, we have decals, and text layers. Animation modifiers have random and time-based loops, and there are scene state machines and cloners and overall cloner improvements. The entire 5.5 and beyond roadmap is public. You can go on our website and take a look, and I encourage you to check out our roadmap for more information. I will leave this for a minute or two. You can scan it and get in touch with us. Well, in the end, thank you very much for coming, and thank you for your time.